Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Orlando. I am Rhonda Rodriguez, the chair of the RE Committee. Our youth group has worked very hard to prepare today's service, and I hope you appreciate what they have to offer on the topic of learning to cope with change during the COVID pandemic. Our youth group members bringing you today's service are Carina, Cooper, Nolan, and Ping, as well as Julia, who will be joining us later on video. As always, we are grateful for our music director, Aubrey Connelly-Candelario. Cindy and Sandy are bringing us an update from the Generosity Committee, and we also have our youth group co-leaders, Jonathan and Richard, helping us keep everything running smoothly. COVID has been the dominating topic of our lives for the past 2 years, but it's important to remember that students had to deal with it in a different way than their parents and grandparents. Students completing second grade this year are experiencing their first school year in a conventional school setting. They didn't have a normal kindergarten or first grade experience. This year's 8th graders missed most of the usual middle school comings and goings. Students graduating this year didn't experience the traditional events of 10th and 11th grade. What was that like? We'll hear some of their perspectives today. I want to take a moment to extend a very warm welcome to anyone who's visiting us. Rather than gathering because we all have the same beliefs, we are an intentional community gathered around our shared promise to support each other's individual spiritual journeys. As you'll hear about later in our Generosity Campaign update, we're also working to be more intentional about bringing all ages together. In today's world, that often doesn't happen, but we think it's important to have an adult friend ask a child or youth how they did on that science test they were worried about, or for a 30-year-old and 70-year-old to chat about life while having snacks after the service. So that's a little bit about us. We hope that after the service you can stay for fellowship and tell us a little bit about you. For more information about our congregation, go to orlandouu.org or email welcometeam@orlandouu.org. Some special announcements for today. The installation ceremony for Reverend Margoley will take place on Saturday, April 9th at 2 p.m. at 1U in person, and will be live streamed via YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom. We have a volunteer sign-up list at the back of the sanctuary, as we are much in need of your help to make this day a success. We especially need help with setting up, but can use volunteers in other areas as well. If Joan Nelson is in the room and wants to stand up for a moment, she might be outside at the table, but I know that she is armed with a notebook ready to take down your name to be a volunteer, so please see her if that's something you're willing to do. On the day of the event, we need as many members as possible to park on the street. If you're able, please help make room in the parking lot for our out-of-town guests. It's not too late to participate in the postcard campaign to protest the insensitive Don't Say Gay bill that has been signed and now faces a court battle as groups like Equality Florida stand up to make a difference. We have Just Say Gay postcards available for you to mail to the office of Ron DeSantis, if you so choose, letting him know your objection to this bill. Let's show our support for LGBTQAI students, especially this week, as we acknowledge the International Trans Day of Visibility, which took place on March 31st. Today after service, Wrestling with Our Understanding of Racism will be meeting at 11:45 a.m. in person in Classroom B and via Zoom. We'll be hearing from members of the 8th Principal Team, and details on how to access the Zoom can be found in the weekly update. And please consider joining others on April 7th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in our assembly room to write loving and encouraging notes to be tucked into bags of food that One Heart for Women and Children Project distributes to families experiencing food insecurities. You can see the weekly update for more information. Our weekly announcements will be repeated on slides after the service in case you missed anything, and you can find links in the weekly update or on our website. Thanks again for joining us today. Let's get started.
The words for today's chalice lighting, A Spark of Hope by Melanie Davis, appear on the slide if you would like to read along. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice. Please remain seated while Carina sings today's opening hymn, Changes by David Bowie.
Good morning. I'm Richard Cook. I'm co-leader of the youth group out here at 1U. I call the worship today, with words from Sharon Wiley, "You are never alone." It's okay to be tired of change. It is okay to be tired of everything different. Okay to feel weary of resilience and wholeness and learning and growth. And it's okay to yearn for simple rest. It's okay to be grouchy and unsatisfied, and all the ordinary human ways that we are. Let us this morning remember that you are loved. Let our time together soothe the restlessness in you. May you be comforted in knowing that whatever you are feeling today and other days, you are not alone. You are never alone. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Graham, co-leader of the youth group with Richard. And, I was asked to do a testimonial, and, the purpose of this testimonial, of course, is to help get money, right, for the generosity campaign. And it's always awkward, right, to ask folks for money, I feel. So one of the tried and true methods, though, apparently, is to tug at the old heartstrings, right? So I'm going to try to do that. I don't know if I'll succeed or not, but, the focus of today's service, is looking at change that COVID has brought about through the eyes of our youth. And I remember reflecting on this in the early days of the pandemic. I remember standing in I remember standing in the kitchen thinking about while my kids were trying to be entertained at home. My kindergartner, now in second grade, she hasn't had a single, normal year, but she was doing her lessons. I remember standing in my kitchen bawling because while COVID has been unfair to lots of folks and everybody, it's been horrible, but for the kids, I felt like their childhood was getting ripped away from them, couldn't go out and play with your friends. And I just, it was unfair to my kids. I was teaching online then as well. And how unfair it was to them, how we went off on spring break and now we're not going to see each other again in person. Some kids that were brilliant in the classroom shut down, couldn't do anything. It was too much. Teachers, it was too much. It was a lot too much for us. It was too much for everybody. But for the kids, it just felt so unfair, and I just couldn't keep it in all the time. So now we're just getting glimpses of what it's like after the pandemic. We're starting to get kids back in school, and we're starting to, this is year 3 of this pandemic, and we're starting to see what sort of effect this has had on our youth and on children. The teachers where I work, we've identified huge increases in executive functioning disorders. We have so many more cases. That's just the ability to stay, there's a whole lot of stuff with that. We have a huge increase in what's called oppositional defiant disorders in our children. We're seeing huge gaps in certain certain knowledge, certain subjects, certain things that being 2 years online and having 2 years of this pandemic is starting to do to our youth. And then, right, we start to think about our community here at 1U, right? And I can't express enough how proud I am of these folks back here, of these youth who we've stuck together and we've dealt with some hard things, but we've also had a lot of fun together. it kept me going through a lot of this. And now we're in a position to hire someone, a director of religious enrichment, when the wish is full-time, and we need a full-time DRE. It's not just something we want, it's something that we need, because these last 2 years, we need someone, a professional who understands what we need to do for our youth, for our children, for our congregation in general. So if you can find some extra, money to give, it will go a long way. It's going somewhere great, and it's what our community needs. I hope that you can do that, but if not, fostering a relationship with our youth too, just by having just chatting conversations, asking the people who are working with our youth through all this, hey, what can I do? Or I saw this cool thing, reach out that way too. It doesn't have to be monetarily. But we do need a full-time DRE, so I hope you can find a way to give maybe a little bit more than maybe we were thinking of to that effect. So our kids deserve it. Thank you very much.
COVID has brought a lot of hurt and a lot of stress, but it's also brought an opportunity to try new things and to create. This pandemic was the inspiration for songs, for choreography, and lots of wonderful artwork. Today, for Time for All Ages, we would like to share a video of 2 spoken word poems created by youth inspired by COVID.
They say that lonely people talk to themselves, that they are trying to suck as much oxygen out of the room to forever silence the quiet. The quiet don't talk back, so they speak for it, hoping that its bravado will bounce off the walls like it is excited to see them. Hug them like it will never be around them again. Give it life, only for it to be sucked out of it. I wonder if that is how my grandmother feels on her hospital bed. This disease trying to suck all the oxygen out of her body. Give her ribs bravado like it is excited to break them. Crush her so she'll never hug her grandchildren again. And the grandchildren just want to hug their grandmothers again. Just want to go outside again and again. We wake up to these 4 walls. This house ain't nothing more than a memory. The hugs that should have been a little bit tighter. The smiles that should have been a little bit brighter, the if I would have knowns are bouncing off her walls, offering her nothing more than emptiness. She became so small and cold, and her silence is deafening, so loud that I almost forgot what my best friend's laugh sounded like. I wonder if she'll forget mine too. I wonder if there'll come a day where we'll have to rediscover our bodies, how to hold each other so tight that it screams, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I'm sick of this house. It knows we are hungry, yet its kitchen stink of loneliness, and its bones don't got the same warmth. If I'd have known this would be the last time I see them, I would have said more. I wouldn't be shouting at these walls. They say that lonely people talk to each other. And if we are all lonely, and if we are all talking, let's speak to each other. Let's breathe life back into these walls. Pretend to lift our caps and fly our gowns because we did it. Know that when I am staring at you through the screen, I'm thinking about the next day where I'll be able to touch your hand. And I wonder if they feel the same as mine. Ain't that a good thing? To see yourself so much in other people that you look fool when you look in the mirror. To make your lonely less lonely.
I miss being with my best friend, and I miss her. I hope so.
The playgrounds are asking about us. There are no classes, no schools, no churches, no guests, no visitors, no parks, no friends, no peace of mind. empty and sad streets. Ramadan came and we could not go to the mosques. The outside world is silent. I'm afraid that my family and friends will get sick. I'm scared it will get to my grandparents' house and their door will be open. Before, I would say to everyone, I want to be alone, but today, I want to be next to you. I miss sharing the fun times, and that makes me sad. I miss being with my best friend. I miss her hugs. I grew tired of reading the same books. Oh, how I miss my freedom, the freedom to be a child, to just run and play. Time is becoming timeless. Seconds, minutes, months are flying. I want it to stop. We are afraid, yet we are fearless. We've looked in our hearts, and kindness we found. Thank you for your time, for your work, for your strength, and for your love. I am happy to have more time with my mum. I draw pictures, I play and do homework. We've had social distancing picnics, social distancing walks, social distancing hugs, and social distancing talks. The planet is taking a break and shows us its charms. Animals come and go from the shadows. Our wildlife grows like us. I dream of a day where masks aren't needed. I'll go to the park to skate. I'll play football outside or dance in the street with no shame. The fog and the darkness, they won't win. The sun is waiting, dreaming, smiling. All this will pass. We will be fine. We will see you soon. Join me. Give me your hand and let's face this, because together we are stronger.
Today is a multi-generational service, and so we will not be providing outdoor childcare, but the wiggle room is available for families who need it. Now, let us join together in singing our children's song, This Little Light of Mine.
Good morning. I need to take a breath after watching that. Whew, yeah. So I'm Cindy Schleier, and I'm a co-chair with Sandy on the Generosity Campaign. And this video really said a lot, honoring our past, our social justice past, and even our recent past, where we, like I said, it's the third year, where we stayed together through the pandemic. We switched to Zoom. We switched to doing so much virtually, but we were still together. And part of that is loving our connections. And our connections not just to here, but to our community and to our neighbors in Paramore and to, other, family and friends. And as Jonathan so eloquently said, we are trying and continue to build our future. And part of our future is a full-time RE director. So thank you so much to all of you who have given already so much. Most of you, 60%, have increased their pledges. We now have $250,000 in pledges, which is huge. We need to, thank you. We're trying to get to $478,000. And we do have a deadline now because our finance committee has to know how to plan for the future. And those number people need to know what we can come up with. So April 17th, please try to get your pledges in. We are planning that. There's a drop box in the lobby, and so please put it in if you have not already done so. Again, thank you for your generosity.
Hello everyone, I'm Cooper Boris, and I'll be sharing the joys and concerns. We have actually not received specific joys and concerns to share this week, but no matter what might be on your mind or in your heart, please know that our caring circle and the entire congregation are here to support you. We'd like to express concern for anyone out there who might be experiencing autism and are struggling to get understanding and acceptance from the people in their lives. Yesterday was World Autism Acceptance Day, and we encourage you to take some time this week to learn more about autism and the great things that people with autism are contributing to the world. We'd also like to take a moment to celebrate Betty Reed Soskin, who just retired this week from the National Park Service at the age of 100. Betty helped establish the Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Historical Park in Richmond, California. She was a member of the Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church and was active with the Black Caucus of the Unitarian Universalist Association. If you want to contribute to our sharing of joys and concerns for the week, please send an email to joysandconcerns@orlandouu.org during the week so that it might be shared on Sunday. If you are attending service in person, you can also fill out a card at the registration table and hand it to an usher before the start of the service. I invite you now to join in our communion of names and add into the chat the names of those who are on your heart this morning. Whether due to a joy or a sorrow, followed by a moment of silent meditation, we will meditate today on these words by David Breeder for change. For the setting sun from an airplane window, for the rising sun from a train window after riding all night, for the rising and setting sun in directions that feel foreign, for the sunlight even when we are lost, for the times the heart has longed to be alone, for the times the heart has ached for another, for leaving in fear, for leaving in hope, for the way home and the way away, for the windows and the suns we have seen, for the windows and the suns we will see, for memory and forgetting, for the change that is our lives. Please take a moment to breathe deeply or to meditate in whatever way you are comfortable doing so. Thank you.
Please remain seated as we sing our centering hymn, number 183, The Wind of Change, Forever Blown. Words will be on the screen, and hymnals are available in the pews. We now invite you into the practice of generosity. Your financial support allows the many ministries of the First Unitarian Church of Orlando to thrive. Since this is the first Sunday of the month, we are glad to introduce the Adult Literacy League as our Share the Plate partner for the month of April. Please watch this video to learn more about how the Adult Literacy League empowers Central Floridians to be thriving members of our community through literacy and education.
The struggles that I've had with math has been quite stressful for me. I was able to find the Adult Literacy League, which saved me. Most people don't realize that the Adult Literacy League have open drop-in math labs where wherever you are in your issue with math, they will be able to assist you. Some of the goals that I arrived at the Adult Literacy League was to become a little bit more confident in my ability to do algebra. And with the assistance of the league, I was able to do that. My life has become so much better with Adult Literacy League. It has allowed me to be confident in going out into the world, applying for positions that I would not have ever even thought of doing in the past. We don't have second chances often, but Adult Literacy League will give us that. With your support, students like me can achieve success.
Me not going to school has affected my ability to read, my ability to write, my ability to make friends because I'm afraid that they'll find out. You know, my ability to have a decent job to support my family. So then I found the Adult Literacy League. It took me almost 3 months to actually contact somebody because I would have to admit to somebody that I needed help because nobody outside of my family knew that I needed help. So when I finally contacted somebody, it took some time to get a tutor because unfortunately there wasn't one in my area. And I got a call saying that they finally found a tutor that was able to meet with me. And it was just an amazing thing. I mean, I felt like I had a second chance in life. My tutor is Hugh Mills. When we first met, it was really scary because I was embarrassed to read in front of him. He assured me that everything was gonna be fine, that I wasn't just a low life that, you know, that nobody cared about. You know, I was able to do something in my life.
When the student realizes the impact that a lack of literacy has on their life, then I think that gives them the drive that's required, because it is a lot of work. The work really has to come from the student. The tutor is there to guide, to assist, to share their information. The strikes against people who are not literate or have difficulty reading and writing to find a job, any job at all, much less one that will help them to support themselves and their family, I just don't know how they do it. It brings the whole society down, unfortunately. It's not just their problem, it's our problem.
The Adult Literacy League has changed my life by giving me the confidence to know that I have the ability to move forward in life. I'm working on getting my GED. I'm closer to it now than I have ever been, so I can go to college and show my family, show my kids, not never to quit and always to move forward in life.
There are many other Daniels, and we need to help them all.
Without your support, I would not be in the position that I am in today. Please, give.
You can make an offering online to support the many ministries of this congregation. Simply go to orlandouu.org and click the donate button in the upper right corner, send a text, or mail a check. You may also support this month's Share the Plate partner, Adult Literacy League, by finding a link to their organization in the weekly update. If you choose to donate to them directly online, please let us know you donated by emailing Gabby at programassistant@orlandouu.org. So I noticed that our ushers already came around with the collection baskets, but I do not want you to miss this offertory music. Please sit back and enjoy Nolan's performance of Humoresque by Antonin Dvorak.
COVID and quarantine caused a lot of emotions for me. Some good, some bad, a lot confusing. I was in 7th grade when quarantine started. Now I'm almost done freshman year, and in 2 years, I've changed so much. Quarantine had a lot of bad stuff. It was hard not seeing my family and missing important family moments, like my cousin Lily being born in September 2020. I didn't get to see her till she was almost 1 year old. They would post pictures online of her doing these cute baby things, and I wanted to be there so much. It was also hard because my grandpa got really sick in June 2021, just when the school year ended. Things were better enough to make with COVID that we could make the trip up to New York, but we hadn't been planning to go until the end of June. But then my grandpa went into the hospital. He didn't have COVID, he'd been sick for a long time, and he was 82 years old, so it was just his time. So we rushed up to New York to see him, but because of COVID, the hospital didn't want any of us to go in. My grandma and my dad were really stubborn, and they went in, and my aunt and my cousins got to too. The hospital absolutely refused to let me in. They said the COVID risk was too high, even though I had gotten the vaccine at that point. So I wasn't able to see him before he passed. And it's so hard because I think about the last time I saw him back in December 2019 over Christmas break and saying, I can't wait to see you next summer, but that never happened. But I'm lucky to have friends and family that help me through it when things get tough. Like with school, with my ADHD, online school was difficult. I was usually an AB student, but during the first marking period of 8th grade in fall 2020, I started getting D's because I couldn't concentrate on getting my work done. So my parents decided to send me back to school for the second marking period. It was weird because a lot of kids weren't back yet, and the classrooms were half full, and kids kept getting called out in the middle of the day to go back into quarantine. My favorite classes, like choir, were really difficult because masks get in the way when you sing, and so many school events I was looking forward to, like concerts, got canceled. Things weren't all bad though. During COVID, I lost contact with some of my old friends, but I made new ones who are my best friends now. Girl Scouts had a lot of online workshops, and I concentrated on badge work and even did Girl Scout camp online. By the end of my cadet year in 8th grade, I had finished a lot of badges. I was also a lot of the theater shows I normally do were canceled, but I was able to do an online camp called Shakespeare Shakes Queer. It was in Chicago, so if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't have been able to go. We looked at Shakespeare through a queer lens, so I practiced my acting skills and made a lot of friends that I still talk to today. Another amazing thing was being able to connect more with being UU. I used to go to Unirondack, which is a UU camp in the Adirondacks in New York. When we moved to Florida, I couldn't go. But during COVID, they took camp online for summer 2020, and it was a way to connect with my friends again. In summer 2021, I went back to camp for real, and it was amazing to see my friends without being on a computer screen. I love Unirondack so much that I'm going back in 2 weeks this summer, and I hope to be a counselor there in a few years. I also reconnected with the RE program at my old church and did coming of age program online. And of course, it's been great playing D&D or Dungeons & Dragons online with my UU friends here. We managed to keep the youth group together despite COVID because of the game. So even though COVID has caused a lot of harm and it was hard to deal with some of the changes, there were also good changes. In the end, change is what you make of it. You can complain about it, or you can make the best with it.
Hello again. Mine will not be that emotional. But COVID has been tough for everyone. Whether it's not being socially active or being trapped in your house with your family, almost every part of this pandemic was bad. But for me, the first 6 months were kind of fun and unique. During 2019, me and my family invited this other family to stay at our house for 2 weeks. They were a family from Venezuela, and they only spoke Spanish. Luckily, I speak Spanish, as well as my mom, sister, and brother, but not my dad, so he had to, let's just say, do his best. They had one mom, one dad, and 2 daughters. We knew them because a year before, they stayed at our house as an Airbnb renter. My family and their family quickly grew a friendship. So back to 2019. They were only supposed to stay with us for 2 weeks. It was the older sister's quinceañera, so their parents decided to take her and their other daughter to the US to get her some gifts, like a phone and other stuff. However, this fun family trip for them in one day turned into a disaster. The government of Venezuela decided to shut the borders completely. The family that was supposed to stay with us for 2 weeks ended up staying with us for nearly 6 months. Us and them together shared birthdays, holidays, and food. The Vennies, as we called them in our house, taught me so much. They helped me improve my Spanish, taught me how to cook, taught me about their culture, told stories about friends and family, and so much more. I think it's kind of ironic, really. Me being locked inside my home, I learned more about Venezuela and the people there than I ever could have, if I even probably visited. See, Mom, sitting at home all day is good for me. Every kid still has school during COVID. I had to take on half of 7th grade and 8th grade virtually. This was surprisingly one of the greatest things to happen to me. Of course, not seeing my friends was hard, but me and my friend Sebastian talked to each other during our classes together, so it was kind of fun. Also, 8th grade was the easiest year of school that I've ever had. First, I got to wake up a lot later because I didn't have to get ready for school or choose clothes or anything. Secondly, my teachers were not really good at giving assignments because they weren't really that good at technology, unlike everyone here. Third, I could wear whatever I want. Pajamas, anything. When I finally got to be a freshman in high school, virtual school was lifted. I got into an EST magnet program, Engineering, Science, and Technology, which was very exciting. Robotics. But that meant I went to school where I knew literally no one. It was very nervous to start high school. The first month, I sat alone at lunch, didn't talk to anyone. But eventually, I found some good friends though. Now I love all my classes, well, almost all. And I got certified in website creation coding language called HTML. In the summer between 8th and 9th grade, I was scared about going into high school. But now high school is going better than I could have imagined. This taught me that things might be scary at first, but it always gets better. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julia, and I am currently a high school senior. I was in my sophomore year when the pandemic struck and the world got turned upside down. What most of you probably do not know is that my world had already been turned upside down 2 years prior when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto encephalopathy, a condition that does not have a cure, though it can be managed. My immune condition left me homebound for the majority of 8th grade and my freshman year. I was frequently in and out of hospital, carted around to doctors. The common cold would have me in bed for 2 weeks instead of just a day or two. I attended school virtually to accommodate my illness. I was constantly in pain, and I still have scars from where my IVs used to sit. I got better, obviously, but it took time. Then, a few months after I was well enough to return to a normal school life, COVID-19 hit. As you all know, lockdowns were put into place. More people began to attend school and work online. Everything changed. We all had to change. This may sound strange, but in a lot of ways, pandemic made a lot of things easier for me. Prior to the pandemic, a lot of people would look at me strangely for wearing face masks all the time. Some were polite when asking me about it and were genuinely curious. On the other hand, some people were outright rude and assumed I was some sort of weeb or otaku. In other words, essentially a weirdo. Then suddenly, everyone was wearing face masks, and I would instead get questions along the lines of, "That face mask is so cute, where did you get it?" instead of judgmental stares. There was also an increased focus on online school and accessibility in online spaces. While I was ill, there weren't many online events that I could participate in simply because, in a lot of cases, they just didn't exist. Now, in comparison, there are often both live and recorded options. I can make use of things like closed captioning, rewinding if I missed something, etc. Even so, it was isolating, and I felt caught in the middle. On the one hand, my life didn't change all that much. On the other hand, there was this influx of messages from my friends exclaiming how hard things were and how they finally understood what I'd been talking about this whole time and how lonely they felt. I didn't know how to feel about that. Suddenly, there was all this attention on something that had already been my normal for years. I felt frustrated because the issues that I and others had been dealing with for ages were suddenly so important, as if they had never existed or mattered before then. After all of that, it is really hard for me to get excited over typical teenage concerns. My perspective has shifted. Things like the football game getting canceled or the popular couple breaking up yet again, I just don't have it in me to make a fuss over it anymore. And it's not from a lack of caring. My point of reference for what a big deal is so different from what most of my peers would expect from me. I have bigger priorities and bigger concerns. Honestly, after everything, I'm just happy to still be alive. I have learned a lot through the course of pandemic. Being patient with others, even if I'm at a different place. Honoring myself and my body and making space for genuine rest. Processing grief and the pain of my illness in combination with pandemic. The hardest thing has been learning how to let go, how to surrender. There is a time when a ball hangs in the air after being thrown before it begins to fall. There is an eye to every hurricane, a moment of suspension, the beginning of the end. Hang time, as my mother calls it. This kind of surrender is not giving up. Surrender is not quitting. Surrender does not mean weakness. Surrender is releasing control from your hands, and it takes a great deal of strength to be able to do that. Surrender is calmly waiting out the hurricane, understanding that the storm will go on until it is finished, and you cannot make it end any faster. Surrender is knowing there will be an end to the pandemic, even if you do not know when that end will come. Surrendering is hard, especially if you are so used to having control, so used to having certainty. But there is strength that comes from knowing that the end will come, even if you're uncertain as to when. If nothing else, I have learned this. There is maturity and understanding and accepting uncertainty. There can be peace from surrender, and it is okay to cry.
Thank you, Julia and Cooper, for your reflections. We've heard many testimonials in support of our generosity campaign in the past few weeks. As we all know, the goal of the generosity campaign is to support a full-time DRE. The youth group has spent some time talking about what we'd like our group to do once we have a full-time DRE and what we hope that person will be like. This video clip is a pretty good summary of what we talked about. Personnel committee, please take notes.
If you want this choice position, have a cheery disposition.
Jane, I don't...
Rosy cheeks, no warts.
That's the part I put in.
Play games, all sorts. You must be kind, you must be witty, very sweet and fairly pretty.
What of all the ridiculous...
George, take us on outings, give us treats. Sing songs, bring sweets. Never be cross or cruel, never give us castor oil or glue. Love us as a son and daughter, and never smell of bar. put that in too. If you won't scold and dominate us, we will never give you cause to hate us. We won't hide your spectacles so you can't see. Put toads in your bed or pepper in your tea. Hurry, Nanny, many thanks sincerely. Jane and Michael, thanks.
And now, please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 396 in the gray hymnals, I Know This Rose Will Open. The words will be posted on the screen.
For this hymn, let's sing it 4 times. First time together, and then the last 3 times, if you will start, the choir will do the round. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know my fear. I know my fear. I know my soul. I know my soul. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know my fear. I know my fear. I know my soul. I know my soul. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know my fear. I know my fear. I know my soul. I know my soul. I know this rose. I know this rose will open. Today, our closing words come from Emily Richards. May you be the change. May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you've made yourself about who you want to be feel closer to the reality of who you are right now. May you share the feelings of transformation wherever you may go. May you spread into the world words, deeds, thoughts, and interactions until we all change, transformed and transforming together. Become our better selves. Yawagoa. Ona.
Please join me in our traditional words as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Today's service has ended. As you go out into the world this week, we encourage you to face your changes, whatever they may be, whether they are positive or negative, expected or unexpected. May they bring you blessings in the end.